I'd like to take a moment to talk about the circumcision situation happening in Canada. Circumcision in Canada is much less prevalent than it is in the United States. I think it might be down below 25 or 20% overall. How that translates to older generations of, young adult and adult men isn't entirely clear to me, but it's low, lower than the United States. It's high in certain places. It's high in places like Alberta and British Columbia and Ontario. I've been misspeaking, I think, in some of my previous vids. Ontario has a fairly high circumcision rate of around like 40 or 45%. I think British Columbia and Alberta have somewhere around 40 and 30 or so each. And I'm probably getting them mixed around, but those are the highest ones in Canada. The east coast of Canada, it's pretty well gone. The Atlantic coast, but even in the what I'm getting at is that even in the worst areas, it's below majority. It's clearly below majority status. It's a minority status. And this is interesting. It begs the question, why, once it crosses into minority status, how does it survive really at all? Like, how can parents really justify turning their kid into a weird, arcane, mutilated minority in an uncircumcised province of an uncircumcised country? It really baffles me because, I mean, if you ever gave credence to the locker room argument, which, the decision to circumcise is a really low IQ decision, and the locker room claim is really low IQ. It was never really about the locker room, though. It's about the psychological problems of the mother and the father, really, which is why all of a sudden the locker room argument dries up. I actually think that the real reason why, even when it crosses into bare minority status and starts to really go into minority status, why it doesn't collapse is the fact that there really is no negative social pressure. Penises are hidden. They're not put on display all the time, so you're not consciously arbitrating this constantly, and there's no negative social pressure on parents that do this, which is really where my parent-child interface strategy comes in. We have to start applying negative social pressure, intense, horrifying negative social pressure on the parents here. And I've talked about it. Schools, churches, when churches let out, boys' sports league games in public park, causing absolute chaos, spilling the beans on circumcision to young boys, turning boys against their parents, causing their sons to hate them. I mean, by the end of it, the children will be depressed with PTSD. They'll be ideating suicide, possibly ideating homicide. Who knows? It'll be bad. I mean, we're gonna have to cause some pain. But what I'm getting at here is that I think that's basically the reason. There, even when it crosses negative, there's no negative social pressure. It's not talked about, and there's no negative social pressure. That's where my strategy, the parent-child interface strategy comes in. And also, I'm talking about Canada because it offers a very unique situation where circumcision is a minority status. It's a minority status among neonates. It's probably a minority status even among adults, under, say, age 40 or 50. I mean, I don't know. It's not entirely clear to me, but, my point is there'll be a lot of intact men, a lot of parents who don't circumcise, who don't agree with circumcision. So you can start going in there, negging on circumcision, attacking circumcision. Large numbers of the men will agree with you. Large numbers of the public will agree with you. Large numbers of the parents will agree with you. Basically, in Canada, you'll be able to set up the Cutter parents as a besieged, the Cutter parents themselves as a besieged, hated, attacked minority, and where the cultural consensus will actually be in your favor. It'll be a place where there'll be enough circumcised men where you'll be able to elicit outrage and anger, but there'll be enough people hostile to circumcision that the cultural discourse will actually be on your side. I actually think Canada offers a lot of unique opportunities in this regard. I think we need to get Canadian intactivists piloting the parent-child interface strategy and going into public spaces, as I've said, schools, churches, boys' sports league games, Boy Scout events, events in public parks, public events of any kind, and blasting about circumcision, right? Infant circumcision is child rape. Stop cutting off parts of babies' penises. I've talked about the different ways you can attack. But I think there's a lot of opportunities in Canada. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. Do we have some Canadian intactivists? Do we have some people in Canada willing to get out in the streets and demand a circumcision ban, punishment for the perpetrators, and justice for the victims in the form of tissue regeneration, and start attacking the cutter parents? I think that's what has to be done. Canada would be an interesting testing ground. So tell me what you think. Take care. Bye-bye.